The name Al Capone is known worldwide, especially among those fascinated by the history of organized crime. His violent battles with rival gangs, the numerous assassination attempts he survived, and the sheer brutality of his reign are the stuff of legend. But behind every crime boss is a ruthless enforcer, and for Capone, that man was Jack McGurn. Jack wasn't just any hitman, he was Capone's go-to executioner, the man behind some of the most infamous murders in Chicago's bloody gangland history. Today, we dive into the life of the man they called Machine Gun Jack, and how he went from an aspiring boxer to one of the most feared assassins of the 1920s. A young boxer with big dreams. Our story begins in 1921, in the bustling city of Chicago, a place teeming with opportunity, but also rife with danger. A determined 19-year-old Jack McGurn was chasing his dream of becoming a professional boxer, pouring his sweat and effort into the ring. But before he was known as Jack McGurn, he was Vincenzo Gabbardi, born in Sicily in 1902. At the tender age of 4, he and his family left their homeland behind, making the long and uncertain journey across the Atlantic in search of a better future in America. Like many Italian immigrants of that era, they settled in Brooklyn, a melting pot of cultures where opportunity and hardship walked hand in hand. Life in Brooklyn was anything but easy, especially for a young immigrant boy trying to find his place in a tough, unforgiving neighborhood. The streets were filled with gangs, and survival often depended on a person's ability to stand their ground. Vincenzo quickly learned that if he wanted to avoid being pushed around, he had to know how to fight. His stepfather, recognizing his natural talent and fiery spirit, encouraged him to channel his energy into boxing. With discipline and determination, he began training seriously, dedicating himself to mastering the sport. However, boxing in the early 20th century was not just about skill, it was also about identity and perception. At the time, Irish fighters dominated the scene, and Italian boxers often found themselves overlooked or outright discriminated against. Realizing that his Sicilian name could be a disadvantage, Vincenzo made a bold decision. He rebranded himself as Jack McGurn, a name that was easier for American audiences to accept, and one that would later become infamous in Chicago's underworld. Inside the ring, Jack McGurn was relentless. His quick reflexes, powerful punches, and sheer determination made him a formidable opponent. Boxing was more than just a sport to him. It was his passion, his escape, and his ticket to a better life. But fate, as it often does, had other plans for him. While his fists may have been trained for the ring, it was outside of it that he would make a name for himself. One that would be remembered not for championship titles, but for his connections to one of the most notorious crime syndicates in American history. A personal tragedy turns deadly. In 1923, Jack McGurn's world was shattered in an instant. His stepfather, Angelo Diorio, the man who had guided him through his early years and encouraged his boxing dreams, was ruthlessly gunned down by gangsters. The reason? He had crossed the wrong people in the volatile and violent world of bootlegging, a deadly game where even a small misstep could mean the end. The loss was devastating, and it changed McGurn's life forever. Up until that moment, boxing had been his sole focus, his path to a respectable future. But with his stepfather's murder, something inside him hardened. The ring no longer mattered, only vengeance did. Fueled by rage and a sense of duty to his fallen father figure, McGurn abandoned his dreams of becoming a champion and instead set out to deliver his own brand of justice. For 3 long years, he hunted down the men responsible, methodically tracking them through the city's seedy underbelly. And when he finally found them, he didn't just kill them, he made a statement. One by one, he executed his targets with chilling precision, ensuring that each met a brutal and unmistakable end. But it was the detail he left behind that truly sent a message. In the hands of each slain man, McGurn placed a 5-cent coin, a haunting symbol that would become his signature. Some say it was a reference to the price of a life in the underworld. Others saw it as a taunt, a way of showing his victims just how cheap their lives had become in his eyes. Word of these executions spread like wildfire. The underworld took notice, and so did some of its most powerful figures. McGurn had proven himself to be more than just a skilled fighter. He was calculating, fearless, and willing to go to any lengths to settle a score. From boxer to Capone's enforcer. After avenging his stepfather, Jack McGurn found himself at a crossroads. His thirst for retribution had pushed him beyond the confines of the boxing ring and deeper into the criminal underworld. There was no turning back. With blood on his hands and a reputation growing by the day, he became entangled with Chicago's North Side Gang, a powerful organization heavily involved in bootlegging, gambling, and racketeering. At first, McGurn seemed like a perfect fit. He was tough, street-smart, and willing to do whatever it took to survive. But there was one problem. He wasn't the type to take orders blindly. His aggressive nature, coupled with an unwillingness to bow to authority, quickly made him a liability. The North Side leaders saw him as unpredictable, even dangerous, and eventually, they pushed him out. Capone didn't just see McGurn as another thug. He saw a weapon. And in a city where power was built on violence and intimidation, Jack McGurn had just secured his place as one of the most feared enforcers in Chicago history. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre. McGurn's most infamous act came on February 14, 1929, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It was a calculated hit designed to wipe out Capone's biggest rival, George "Bugs" Moran. McGurn meticulously planned the operation, disguising hitmen as police officers to catch Moran's men off guard. 7 of Moran's associates were lined up against a wall and gunned down in cold blood. The fall of a hitman. But in the underworld, power is never permanent. As law enforcement cracked down on Capone's empire, McGurn's luck started to run out. After Capone was finally arrested for tax evasion in 1931, McGurn lost his most powerful protector. His name was now infamous, and authorities and his enemies were watching closely. Without Capone shielding him, McGurn's life took a downward spiral. The once feared hitman found himself struggling to make ends meet. The legacy of Machine Gun. Jack McGurn's story is a reminder that in the world of organized crime, there are no happy endings. He was once untouchable, one of the most feared hitmen of his time. Yet he died the same way many of his victims did, ambushed and gunned down. His rise and fall mirror that of so many gangsters of the Prohibition era, driven by revenge, fueled by power, and ultimately consumed by the very violence they embraced. So, next time you hear about Al Capone, remember the man behind the trigger, the enforcer who made the Chicago outfit's enemies disappear, Jack McGurn, the hitman who lived and died by the gun. Thanks for watching. Please like the video, press the subscribe button, and also drop your thoughts in the comment section.